When you find bruises on your wife's body, the last thought that crosses your mind is that she's cheating on you with your former colleague. My name was Ruben, I was 36 years old, and I worked as a construction project designer in Boston. My wife Catherine managed the supply chain at a large logistics company. We had lived together for 10 years and I thought I knew everything about her. We had an 8-year-old daughter named Emma who loved to draw and play the piano. Catherine also had a 15-year-old daughter, Olivia, from her first marriage who lived with us. The girls got along well with each other, and our private house in the suburbs of Boston seemed like the perfect place for a family. The summer days of that year were particularly hot. I spent most of my time in the office, working on a project for a new residential complex in downtown. Catherine often stayed late at work. She said they were in peak season due to increased delivery volumes. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She had always been responsible and gave 100% to her work. Our house was a typical New England colonial with a large backyard where Emma loved to play. I had converted the basement into my personal workshop where I could work on drawings and architectural models in peace. Olivia was preparing for college admission, spending her days with textbooks and online courses. She was a bright student, consistently maintaining a GPA above 3.8, and had her eyes set on studying psychology. Emma attended summer camp where she learned to swim and make clay crafts. Every evening she would come home excited, showing us her creations, misshapen bowls and lopsided figurines that we displayed proudly on the kitchen windowsill. In the evenings we gathered together for dinner, discussing our day and plans for the weekend. Everything seemed ordinary and carefree. Catherine would prepare her signature lasagna or grilled salmon, and we'd sit around the dining table as a family sharing stories and laughter. But something changed sometime in late June. Catherine started receiving strange calls, after which she would quickly leave the room. Her phone would ring, she would glance at the screen, and her expression would shift, a mix of excitement and anxiety that I couldn't quite place. When I asked who had called, she would answer vaguely, "Work, nothing important." Her phone suddenly became the most precious thing in the world. She never left it unattended, even when she went to take a shower. Previously, she would leave it on the kitchen counter while cooking or on the nightstand while getting ready for bed. Now it was always in her pocket or her hand. I tried not to overthink it. After all, her job was demanding. As a supply chain manager, she dealt with constant emergencies, delayed shipments, supplier issues, inventory problems. It made sense that she needed to be available around the clock. Or so I told myself. But there were other signs too. She started going to bed later than usual, claiming she needed to finish work emails. Sometimes I would wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning to find her still on her phone, the blue light illuminating her face in the darkness. When I asked if everything was okay, she would quickly lock the screen and say she couldn't sleep and was just browsing social media. One evening in mid-July, I noticed something strange. Catherine came out of the shower in a bathrobe, and when she bent down to pick up a towel, I saw dark purple bruises on her thighs and side. My heart stopped. They were large, irregular marks that covered a significant area of her skin. These weren't the kind of bruises you get from accidentally bumping into furniture. They looked deliberate, almost like someone had grabbed her forcefully. "Catherine, what's this?" I asked, pointing to the bruises. She jerked sharply and tightened her robe. "Oh, that. I hit the edge of a table at the warehouse yesterday. We were moving some boxes, didn't notice the corner." The explanation sounded logical, but something in her eyes alerted me. She wasn't looking at me directly. Her gaze flickered to the side, to the floor, anywhere but at my face. It was a tell I had never noticed before because I had never had reason to doubt her. "Maybe you should see a doctor? The bruises are quite large." "No, everything's fine. It just looks scary, but it doesn't hurt anymore. Don't worry." I tried to dismiss the troubling thoughts, but they wouldn't leave me alone. Over the next few days, I observed her more carefully. Catherine became even more distant. When I tried to hug her, she would find a reason to pull away. It was either too hot, or she was too tired, or she needed to check Emma's homework. Our intimate life, which had never been particularly passionate but had been steady and comfortable, came to a complete halt. It had been almost 6 weeks since we'd been intimate, and every time I initiated, she had an excuse. A week passed and I noticed something else strange. Her phone constantly vibrated with messages even late in the evening. Who could be writing to her at 11 o'clock at night? One time when she went to the kitchen, the phone lit up on the nightstand. I managed to see the sender's name, T. Just a letter. Nothing more. The message preview was turned off, so I couldn't read what it said, but the simple fact that someone was contacting her so late and that she had saved them under just an initial made my suspicions grow stronger. My anxiety turned into suspicion, and suspicion into certainty that something was wrong. I couldn't just ask, I needed to know for sure. I needed evidence, concrete proof that would either confirm or dispel my fears. The next morning when Catherine was in the shower, I took her phone. My hands were trembling when I entered the password. She had changed it. Previously, I had always known the unlock code. It had been our wedding anniversary 0614. But now it was something different. The phone vibrated with an error message. Access denied. I tried several combinations. Our birth dates, the wedding anniversary again, Emma's birthday. Nothing fit. My heart was pounding in my chest. Each failed attempt made me more nervous, knowing I had limited tries before the phone would lock me out completely. Then I tried Olivia's birth date, 0308. The phone unlocked. Ironic, right? Her older daughter became the key to the secret. It felt like a betrayal of Olivia's trust somehow, but I pushed that thought aside and opened the messaging app. What I saw in the messenger destroyed my world in a matter of seconds. Correspondence with Thomas. Dozens, hundreds of messages. Photos. I couldn't look away, even though each word burned like red-hot iron. The messages went back months. I scrolled to the beginning, my hands shaking so badly I could barely control the screen. "Can't wait to see you again, my dear," he wrote. "Me too. Ruben doesn't suspect anything. He's too busy with his projects," she replied. I scrolled further. The messages dated back to March. This had been going on for almost 5 months. 5 months of lies. 5 months while I worked, worried about the family, made plans for the future, she was meeting with another man. 5 months while I kissed her goodbye in the mornings and asked about her day in the evenings, completely oblivious to the fact that my entire life was built on a foundation of deception. Then I found the photos. Catherine in his arms. They were in some hotel. They were kissing. I felt nauseous. The images were intimate, showing a level of passion and connection that I hadn't seen in my wife in years. Maybe ever. She looked happy in these photos, genuinely happy in a way that made me question whether she had ever been truly happy with me. I scrolled some more and froze. The last photo was taken 2 weeks ago. Catherine was standing by a mirror, and in the picture her rounded belly was clearly visible. She was pregnant. Very pregnant. About 6 or 7 months, judging by the photo. I did quick mental math. 6 or 7 months ago was January or February. We hadn't been intimate since early May, and even before that, it had been sporadic. This child couldn't possibly be mine. The shower turned off. I heard Catherine coming out of the bathroom. I quickly put the phone back and left the room. I needed time to collect my thoughts, but there was none. My entire world had just flipped upside down, and I didn't know what to do next. How do you confront something like this? How do you tell your wife that you know she's carrying another man's child? The questions swirled in my mind, making it impossible to think clearly. All day I walked around in a fog. At work I couldn't concentrate. I sat at my drafting table, staring at blueprints without really seeing them. My colleague noticed something was wrong. "Hey Ruben, you okay, man? You look like you've seen a ghost," he said. I just nodded. How could I tell anyone? How could I say that my wife was pregnant with another man's child? The words seemed impossible to speak out loud, as if saying them would make it all too real. In the evening, I returned home earlier than usual. Catherine was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. She was wearing a loose dress that hid her belly. Now that I knew the truth, I saw everything differently. How could I not have noticed before? The loose clothing, the way she positioned herself when we talked, the excuses about not feeling well. It had all been right there in front of me, and I had been too trusting, too naive to see it. "You're early," she said without turning around. "We need to talk," I replied calmly. She tensed, turned to face me, and I saw fear in her eyes. Real, genuine fear. She knew. Somehow she knew that I knew. About what? About Thomas. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Catherine tried to feign incomprehension, but she couldn't pull it off. Her face first went pale, then turned red. I watched as various emotions played across her features. Shock, fear, guilt, defiance. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again. I don't know who you're. Don't lie to me anymore, Catherine. I saw your correspondence. I saw the photos. I know everything. She sank into a chair as if her legs couldn't hold her anymore. Her hands gripped the edge of the table, knuckles turning white. For a moment I thought she might faint. "Ruben, I can explain everything." "Explain?" I laughed, but the laugh came out bitter and angry. "What are you going to explain? That you've been sleeping with another man for 5 months? That you're pregnant with his child? What exactly do you want to explain? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click like if you enjoy this story. I always read your comments and analyze which stories you like best so that I can create better stories. Thank you. I will continue the story. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but it didn't move me. Previously, I would have done anything to comfort her, but now her tears only caused disgust. They seemed manipulative, like a tool she was using to gain sympathy when she deserved none. I didn't want this to happen. It just happened. Now you're going to tell me that he understands you and I don't? That you're better off with him? Go ahead, give me all the clichés. These aren't clichés, she suddenly exploded. You don't understand how hard it was for me. Hard? Was hard for you? And how do you think I feel right now? Catherine wiped away her tears and took a deep breath. She seemed to be gathering courage to tell me the full truth, to finally be honest after months of deception. Thomas is my boss. We started working together in March on a big project. He became director of the logistics center last year, and I was assigned to help him with restructuring. We spent a lot of time together. He listened to me, understood my ideas, supported me. And I didn't support you? I didn't listen? You were always busy with your buildings, your projects. When was the last time you asked me about my work? About how I feel? Don't shift the blame to me, Catherine. I'm not the one who cheated. If you had problems, you should have talked to me, not gotten into bed with another man. She started crying again, but I was relentless. I needed answers. I needed to understand how the woman I had loved, the woman I had built a life with, could betray me so completely and then try to make it seem like it was somehow my fault. How many times did you see him? She remained silent. How many, Catherine? I don't know, many times. At first we just had lunch together. Then he invited me for coffee after work. One time we had wine, and it happened for the first time in May. At his apartment. I clenched my fists so hard that my nails dug into my palms. The pain was almost welcome, a physical sensation to anchor me to reality when everything else seemed surreal. And you continued? Again and again. Yes, she whispered. He rented an apartment near the office. We met there. And the bruises? That was him too. She nodded slowly, almost imperceptibly. Sometimes he gets rough. But he says it's from passion. I wanted to scream, punch walls, break something, but I restrained myself. The children were home. Emma and Olivia shouldn't see me like this. I had to maintain some semblance of control, for their sake if not for my own. They were innocent in all of this, and they didn't deserve to have their sense of security shattered any more than it already would be. The child is his? Yes. Does he know? He knows. He wants me to leave you and move in with him. And you want that? Catherine was quiet for a moment and then nodded. Yes. I want to be with him. Something inside me finally broke in that moment. Not from pain, I was already feeling pain. From the realization that the woman I had lived with for 10 years, with whom I had raised children and built plans, had never actually loved me. Or maybe she had once, in the beginning, but whatever love had existed had died long ago, and I had been too blind to see it. Fine, I said in a strangely calm voice. Then we're getting divorced. Ruben? No. I don't want to hear anything more. Tomorrow I'm going to see a lawyer. I went to my workshop in the basement where I usually worked on drawings. I needed to be alone. I needed to think through all of this and decide what to do next. The basement was cool and quiet, filled with the familiar smell of paper and ink. I sat at my drafting table and put my head in my hands, finally allowing myself to process what had just happened. The next few days were a blurred spot. I hired a lawyer named Kent, an old friend from university who specialized in divorces. When I told him the whole story, he said I had all the cards in my hand. We met in his downtown office, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. He listened to everything without interrupting, occasionally taking notes on a legal pad. She cheated, is pregnant with her lover's child, and you have evidence. The court will be on your side, Kent said. Massachusetts is technically a no-fault divorce state, but infidelity can still influence decisions about asset division and custody, especially when there's clear evidence like you have. We can file on grounds of irretrievable breakdown, but we'll make sure the judge knows exactly why the marriage broke down. But it wasn't enough for me to just get divorced. I wanted Catherine to feel at least a part of the pain she had caused me. I started planning. This wasn't about revenge in the traditional sense. I didn't want to hurt her physically or ruin her life. But I wanted her to face consequences. I wanted her to understand what she had thrown away. I wanted her to see that actions have repercussions, and that you can't just destroy a family and walk away unscathed. The first thing I did was save all financial documents. Throughout our marriage, I had always been responsible for the family budget. We had joint accounts, investments, savings. I knew that Catherine would try to claim half of everything during the divorce. I spent late nights going through files, making copies, organizing everything into neat folders. Bank statements, investment portfolios, retirement accounts, property deeds. I documented it all. My best friend Christopher worked in finance. We met for beers at our usual spot, a dive bar in Cambridge where we'd been going since our college days. I told him everything and he listened without judgment, just letting me talk until I had gotten it all out. Then he gave me advice. Convert some of the savings to cryptocurrency, he said. Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe some others. It's harder to trace and divide. Do it in small amounts so it doesn't raise red flags. And make sure you have copies of everything, every financial document, every account statement. She's going to try to take you for everything you're worth, and you need to be prepared. I did exactly that. Over the next week, I carefully transferred money in increments that wouldn't trigger any alerts. Not huge amounts, just enough to protect a significant portion of our savings from being split down the middle. It felt slightly unethical, but in that moment I didn't care about ethics. Catherine had violated every ethical principle of marriage, and I was simply protecting what I had earned. I also started documenting everything. Every late arrival home, every lie, every message from Thomas that I could intercept. I installed an application that copied her text messages to my phone. It wasn't entirely ethical, and in some states it might not have been legal, but I needed every advantage I could get. Each message was like a knife to the heart, but I forced myself to read them, to save them, to build my case. The hardest part was hiding my feelings from the children. Emma was too young to understand what was happening, but Olivia sensed the tension. She was a perceptive girl, always had been. She noticed the way Catherine and I barely spoke to each other anymore, the way I slept in the guest room, claiming I had to work late and didn't want to disturb her mother. One evening she approached me in the kitchen when Catherine wasn't home. Catherine had gone to work late again, another meeting with Thomas, no doubt. "Ruben, are you and Mom getting divorced?" she asked quietly. I couldn't lie to her. Olivia deserved honesty. She was 15, practically an adult, and she would know if I tried to feed her false reassurances. "Yes, Olivia. But it's not your fault, and it has nothing to do with you or Emma." "Is it because of that man? Thomas?" I flinched. She knew. "How did you?" "I saw them texting. By accident when Mom asked me to hand her the phone. The screen was unlocked." "I'm sorry, Ruben." Olivia hugged me and I suddenly felt tears welling up in my eyes. This 15-year-old girl proved wiser than her mother. She held me while I cried, the first time I had allowed myself to truly cry since discovering the affair. It felt strange to be comforted by someone so young, but her compassion was genuine and it meant more to me than she could possibly know. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you for telling me. And thank you for being here. You're a good dad, Ruben. Better than my biological father ever was. Emma and I are lucky to have you." Meanwhile, I learned more about Thomas. It turned out this wasn't his first workplace affair. He had a reputation as a womanizer who preyed on married women. 2 of his previous relationships had ended in scandals, but he always came out unscathed. His position protected him, and he was careful to target women who had too much to lose to make their affairs public. Through my friend Christopher, I got the contact of the wife of one of the executives at the company where Catherine and Thomas worked. Julia, Catherine's friend who also worked at the same company, told me interesting details when we met at a small cafe in the North End. She seemed uncomfortable, torn between loyalty to Catherine and doing what was right. We sat in a corner booth, away from other customers, speaking in low voices. "Look, I probably shouldn't be telling you this," Julia began, stirring her coffee nervously. "But you deserve to know. Thomas has a pattern. He targets women who are married, preferably women in positions below him. He makes them feel special, understood, appreciated. He promises them everything, that he'll leave his girlfriend, that they'll be together, that their lives will be better with him. And then, once he gets what he wants or once the situation becomes inconvenient, he drops them." "He has a girlfriend?" I asked, shocked. They broke up a month ago. At least, that's what he told Catherine. But I saw them together last week at a restaurant in Cambridge. They looked pretty cozy to me. This information gave me an idea. If Thomas was such a manipulator, then Catherine was just a tool for him too. But she didn't understand that. She believed that he loved her, that they would be together, that the baby would change everything. She was living in a fantasy, and I decided to let reality hit her hard when she least expected it. I decided not to tell her anything. Let her find out the truth herself. Let her experience the betrayal firsthand. It was cruel perhaps, but no crueler than what she had done to me. In August we officially filed for divorce. Kent prepared all the paperwork, and we submitted it to the Middlesex County Probate and Family Court. Catherine moved in with Thomas even before the court proceedings began. She packed her things one Saturday morning while I took Emma to her piano lesson. When we returned, half of her belongings were gone: clothes, personal items, some furniture she claimed was hers. She left Emma with me. Just like that. Our 8-year-old daughter, who needed her mother, was abandoned so Catherine could play house with her lover. Olivia decided to stay as well. She said she didn't want to live with her mother after what she had done. "I can't respect her anymore," Olivia told me that night. "I can't live with someone who would do this to you, to Emma, to our family." She made her choice and I'm making mine. The asset division was complicated. Catherine demanded half of the house, half of the savings, alimony, child support for her unborn child. She actually had the audacity to demand that I support another man's child. Ken shut that down quickly. "She's got some nerve," he said during one of our meetings. "She cheats on you, gets pregnant by her affair partner, and then wants you to pay for the kid? Not happening." Thanks to the evidence I had gathered and the smart financial strategy, I was able to keep most of what mattered. I got the house, which was worth about $600,000. She got the investment apartment we had purchased a few years ago in Somerville, which was worth about $250,000, plus a portion of the cash savings. But the main savings, converted to cryptocurrency, remained with me. The court never knew about them, and Catherine had no idea I had moved that money. I also got primary custody of Emma. Catherine would have visitation rights, but Emma would live with me. The judge wasn't impressed by a mother who abandoned her 8-year-old to move in with her lover. Olivia was old enough to choose where she wanted to live, and she chose to stay with me. The court proceedings took months, dragging through the fall and into early winter. Each hearing was torture, sitting in the courtroom while lawyers argued about our failed marriage, reducing years of shared life to arguments about money and property. The funniest thing happened 2 months after she moved in with Thomas. My mother Angelica, who had never liked Catherine and always thought she was unworthy of me, called and told me interesting news. My mother had been right about Catherine from the beginning, though I hadn't wanted to see it. She had always said there was something calculated about Catherine, something that didn't ring true. I had dismissed it as maternal overprotectiveness, but now I understood she had seen something I had missed. "Ruben, you won't believe this. Julia told me that Thomas quit the company. He found a new job in another state and moved. Alone. Without Catherine." I couldn't believe it. "What?" "Yes, dear. He left her. She's alone, pregnant, without a job." She was also fired for violating corporate ethics. Karma, as they say. Part of me felt satisfaction. Justice had done its work without my intervention. Catherine lost everything: her husband, her lover, her job, the respect of colleagues and friends. She gave birth to Thomas's child in September, but he didn't even show up at the hospital. I heard about the birth from Olivia, who had reluctantly gone to visit her mother. She came back quiet and thoughtful. "The baby's a boy," she told me. "Mom named him Christopher." She looked tired, Ruben. And sad. Really sad. However, the story didn't end there. A month after the birth, Thomas suddenly returned. Not because of love or responsibility. As it turned out later, his new employer learned about his reputation and terminated his contract. He had been fired from 3 jobs in 5 years due to inappropriate relationships with subordinates. He needed a place to stay while he looked for new work, and Catherine, desperate and alone, took him back. Catherine accepted him back. I found out about this from Christopher, who accidentally saw them together at a supermarket in Somerville. He had been buying groceries and spotted them in the produce section, Thomas pushing a cart while Catherine held the baby. "They looked miserable, man," Christopher told me. "Like 2 people going through the motions but with no joy in it." They lived in that apartment she got from the divorce with the infant. According to Julia, their life was far from idyllic. Thomas couldn't find a decent job because of his bad reputation. He was working as a warehouse manager, a significant step down from his director position, making about $40,000 a year. Catherine was barely making ends meet with part of the divorce money and temporary work. She had found a job as an administrative assistant at a small company, making a fraction of what she used to earn. The money from the apartment and cash settlement was running out fast. Babies are expensive, and neither of them had planned for the reality of raising a child on a tight budget. The illusion of their grand romance had crashed hard against the reality of dirty diapers, sleepless nights, unpaid bills, and resentment. Julia told me they fought constantly, loud arguments that the neighbors complained about. But neither could leave. Both were trapped by their own choices. As for me, I focused on the children. Emma had a hard time with the divorce, but gradually got used to the new reality. She went to therapy, a kind child psychologist who specialized in helping kids cope with family disruption. Slowly, Emma started smiling again, started playing piano with enthusiasm, started being a kid again instead of a sad little girl mourning the loss of her family as she knew it. Olivia became my real support. She helped with Emma, cooked, supported me in difficult moments. She took on more responsibility than any teenager should have to, but she did it willingly. "We're a team now," she told me. "The three of us. And we're going to be okay." Her maturity amazed me. Despite everything her mother had done, Olivia maintained contact with Catherine, visiting her occasionally and calling every week. She said someone had to make sure the baby was okay. My career went up. The project I had been working on during all this drama turned out successful, and I was offered a position as senior architect in the company. My salary increased to $130,000 a year, with bonuses and profit sharing. New opportunities appeared, chances to work on exciting projects, to travel, to build something meaningful. I threw myself into work, not to avoid my feelings but to channel them into something productive. I also started therapy myself. My therapist, Dr. Morrison, helped me work through the anger, the betrayal, the self-doubt. "You need to understand that her choices were about her, not about you," he said during one session. "You could have been the perfect husband and she still might have cheated. Some people are driven by needs and desires that have nothing to do with their partners." Those sessions were hard, forcing me to confront painful emotions, but they helped me heal. One day, almost a year after the divorce, I received a message from Catherine. She wrote that she wanted to meet, to talk. I hesitated but eventually agreed. We met in a neutral place, a park near my house. It was a crisp October afternoon, leaves crunching underfoot, the smell of autumn in the air. I arrived early and sat on a bench, watching families play, couples walk hand in hand, life continuing normally for everyone else. She looked tired. Not physically, though that was also noticeable, but morally. In her eyes I saw disappointment and regret. She had aged in that year, lines appearing around her eyes that hadn't been there before. She sat down on the bench, leaving a careful distance between us. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," she began. "What do you want, Catherine?" "I want to apologize. For everything I did to you, the children, our family." "A bit late for apologies, don't you think?" "I know. But I have to say it. I was foolish. I believed Thomas, his promises, and he used me. Just like he used dozens of other women before me." "Julia warned you," I said calmly. "I knew about his reputation, but I decided to let you figure it all out yourself." She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "You were right. I deserved everything that happened to me." "Why are you still with him?" "Because I have nowhere to go. I have no money, no job, no prospects. He at least provides a roof over my head, even if he doesn't love me or the baby." Part of me felt compassion, but the larger part remained cold. She had made her bed, as the saying goes, and now she had to lie in it. "That's your choice, Catherine. You chose him over family, over me. Now live with the consequences." "I understand. I'm not asking you to take me back or forgive me. I just want you to know, I regret it. Every day." We were silent for a few minutes. Birds sang in the trees, children ran across the clearing, life continued. The normalcy of the scene contrasted sharply with the heavy conversation we were having. "How's Emma?" she asked quietly. "Good. She's adapted. She has new friends, is doing well in school. She's in the school orchestra now, plays violin. You should hear her, she's really talented." "And Olivia?" "Preparing for college admission. She wants to become a psychologist. She's been accepted early admission to Harvard. I'm incredibly proud of her." Catherine smiled through tears. "She was always a smart girl. Smarter than me. You could visit them more often, you know. They're still your daughters." "I know. But every time I see them, I see what I've lost. What I threw away. It hurts too much." I stood up. This conversation was going nowhere productive. "I have to go." "Thank you for the apology, Catherine, but it doesn't change anything." "I know," she whispered. I walked away without turning back. That meeting became the final point in our story. I never saw Catherine again after that day. According to Olivia, who occasionally communicated with her mother by phone, she continued to live with Thomas in difficult conditions. He found work but at a much lower position and salary. They barely survived, constantly quarreling, but neither could leave. Both were trapped by their own choices. The baby, little Christopher, was the only innocent victim in all of this. Olivia visited him occasionally, bringing gifts and spending time with her half-brother. She said he was a sweet child, quiet and watchful, and she worried about what kind of environment he was growing up in. And I finally felt freedom. Not immediately, the pain and resentment stayed for a long time. But gradually I learned to live on. I understood that sometimes the best revenge is simply living happily, not letting the past destroy you. I went on dates occasionally, nothing serious, just reminding myself that I was still capable of connecting with someone. I traveled, took Emma and Olivia to Europe one summer, showing them London and Paris. I bought a dog, a golden retriever named Max, who became Emma's constant companion. Emma and Olivia became my priority. We created a new family, smaller but more sincere. The house felt more like a home than it ever had when Catherine was there. We established new traditions: Sunday pancake breakfasts, Friday movie nights, summer camping trips to New Hampshire. Olivia entered Harvard to study psychology. I was infinitely proud of her. At her high school graduation she gave a speech about resilience and family, and while she never mentioned the divorce directly, I knew she was talking about what we had all been through. Emma flourished in her interests, becoming an even better pianist. She won a regional youth competition, playing a Chopin nocturne with such emotion that I had tears in my eyes. She talked about wanting to study music in college, maybe become a teacher. As for me, I finally understood a simple truth: when someone betrays you, it speaks not about you but about them. Catherine made her choice, guided by her weaknesses, ambitions, and illusions. I wasn't a perfect husband, I could admit that now. Maybe I had been too focused on work, too absent at times. But I never deserved what she did to me. No one deserves that kind of betrayal. And the best punishment for her was the realization of what she lost. Not the money, not the house, not the status. She lost a family that loved her, a husband who cared for her, children who respected her. She traded all of that for the illusion of passion with a man who never loved her, who saw her as nothing more than another conquest, another woman to use and discard. And now she lives with that choice every day, in that cramped apartment with a man who resents her and a child born from betrayal. Meanwhile, I'm building a new life, full of possibilities and hope. I'm considering buying a vacation home in Maine, somewhere by the water where we can spend summers. I've been promoted again at work, now heading the entire residential design department. Emma wants to audition for a prestigious music program. Olivia is thriving at Harvard, making the dean's list and talking about graduate school. Life goes on. Scars remain, but they fade with time. I look at my daughters, at the home we've built together from the wreckage of what came before, and I know we're going to be okay. Better than okay. We're going to thrive. And that, more than anything else, is the sweetest revenge of all. Thank you for watching this video. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.